Look, let's just cut right to it. This isn't about motivation and it's not about encouragement. This is about one thing and one thing only. The exact criteria a hiring panel uses to decide if your UX case study passes or if it gets silently rejected. By the end of this, you're going to know precisely what they're looking for.
30 seconds. That's it. Seriously. That is the absolute maximum amount of time a hiring manager is going to spend on your case study before they make a gut decision. They are not reading it word for word. They are scanning. And they're scanning for reasons to say no. Your job is to give them absolutely zero reasons.
And this is where we all get it wrong. This is the huge disconnect. You think they're carefully reading every single word, admiring your visuals, patiently following your process, but they're not. In reality, they're scanning fast, they're jumping between sections, and they are actively hunting for red flags. They're trying to answer one question. Is this person a safe hire?
So how do they answer that question? Well, they use a framework. You can think of it like a 6-point inspection for your car, and you have to pass all 6 points. If you failed badly in even one of these areas, it is an automatic rejection, no exceptions.
First up, problem clarity. This is like the absolute foundation of your entire case study. If you can't clearly and concisely state the specific problem you are trying to solve for a very specific user and then explain the risk of not solving it, you've already lost them. It's that simple.
And the difference here is just night and day. A passing statement is so sharp, something like, first-time fintech users are hesitating at the confirmation screen because they're afraid of making an error. But a failing one, it's just hopelessly vague, like, the goal was to enhance the user experience. One shows you actually understand business, and the other one, well, it means absolutely nothing. All right, let's talk about dimension 2, thinking transparency. Now, this might sound a little bit backward, but hiring teams really trust designers who are honest about what they don't know. They want to see your assumptions, they want to see your doubts, and they want to see how you learn something along the way.
You've got to get this into your head. Perfect stories are a massive red flag. Real design is messy. Right? So if your case study claims that everything works perfectly the first time and you never made a single mistake, the reviewer knows they know it's a fake story. It's the honesty about your process that builds all the credibility.
Okay, now we get to what is, I would argue, the single most important dimension of all, decision quality. This is where you prove that you're an actual designer and not just a decorator. See, it's not enough to just make a choice. You have to be able to defend it with clear logic and by explaining the trade-offs you made to get there.
So if your big reason for a design choice is just, best practices, or even worse, it was just your personal preference, you fail this dimension. End of story. You absolutely have to show that you considered other options and then made a deliberate, defensible trade-off.
Just listen to this sentence for a second. This right here, this is what a real designer sounds like. It identifies the action, it explains the reason to minimize distraction, and it clearly states the trade-off. We accepted lower promo visibility to get a higher completion speed. That thought process, that is a hireable thought process.
Okay, dimension number 4, flow before screens. Reviewers want to see the logic before they see the polish. They need to understand the user's journey, the actual task they're trying to complete, long before they ever see a single pixel of your final, beautiful UI.
Look, if your case study just dumps a collection of beautiful but totally disconnected screens on the page, that is an instant red flag. It shows you're focused on how things look, not how they work. A passing case study shows a really clear task flow where every single screen has a specific job to do to help the user get to the end. And that brings us right to our 5th point, real-world readiness. Because let's be honest, the real world is messy. Things go wrong all the time. Showing that you've actually thought about error states and edge cases and constraints, that is a huge signal of professional maturity.
These case studies that only show the happy path, where everything just goes perfectly for the user, they feel so unrealistic, almost naive. Designers who ignore what happens when things fail or ignore accessibility and feasibility, they're considered risky hires because they just don't understand how products are actually built.
And finally, we've got the 6th dimension, communication quality. And here's the big secret. Your entire case study is a communication test. Can you explain really complex ideas simply and clearly? Your writing should feel calm and deliberate and precise.
I'm telling you, if your case study is just loaded with buzzwords and these vague descriptions like clean or intuitive, it fails. If it reads like marketing copy that's just trying to sell me something, it fails. The goal here is clarity, not trying to persuade someone with fluff. Okay, so we've gone through all the technical stuff, the whole checklist. But beyond all that, your case study creates an emotional response, a gut feeling in the reviewer. And that feeling? It's often the final decider.
This is the feeling you're creating. A passing case study just feels thoughtful and honest. It makes a hiring manager think, okay, this person understands responsibility. But a failing one, it feels flashy and fragile, making them think, oh boy, this person is going to create chaos. So, which one is yours?
So let's figure that out right now with a really actionable checklist. I want you to be brutally honest with yourself here. Think of this as your own personal readiness test.
Answer yes or no to every single one of these. Can you explain the core problem in just one sentence? Is your user clearly defined and not just everyone? Are at least 3 of your major decisions clearly explained with the trade-offs? Did you show what you chose not to do and explain why? Is there a clear task flow shown before you show the UI? Did you include at least one error or edge case? And the final gut check, could you defend this entire case study live without panicking? If the answer to any of these is no, you are not ready.
Now, that might sound a little harsh, I get it, but it leads us to the single most important rule to remember from this entire thing. This is the hard truth, and it's the final test. You don't fail because you lack talent or because your UI isn't beautiful enough. You fail because your thinking isn't visible, your decisions aren't defended, and so your whole story just isn't credible. And you know what the good news is? That is entirely fixable. This isn't about talent, it's about rigor. So here it is. This is the final rule. If you remember one thing, remember this. If your case study cannot survive an interviewer, even a hostile one, asking you why 5 times in a row for every single decision you made, it is not ready. It has to be that solid.
Which brings us to the final question you have to ask yourself. Take a really hard look at your work. Is it a story that demonstrates professional judgment and trade-offs and realism? Or is it just a gallery of polish that's hiding the logic? Because hiring teams don't hire confidence, they hire judgment.